We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes, we will do it live, Jared. Dr. Jared Johnson on a Thursday evening here, on a fan-led Thursday evening, by the way. So right now, I mean, Matt, I appreciate you always on time, Matt Kirby on time, but we've got 2 people in here watching. Okay, it's jumping up a little bit, but fan-led Thursday could get a little thin with numbers like these.
I mean, we're only 1 minute late. That's why they don't expect us to be on yet.
Are we late? I don't think that we are.
6:01. We're late every time. This is like the opposite of how I spent 24 years not being late. And then I hang out with you and you're like, whatever. We'll come on when we come on.
Good to see you, Tyler Andrel. Good to see you, Tony Petrosky, CJ Frazier from the Facebook page. We're slowly but surely the numbers are going up. And hey, this is a good time. If you have a topic, if you have a question, if you have something that you want us to tackle, please feel free to throw it in the comments. I'm on the verge of sneezing here. I'm trying to hold it back.
So unprofessional.
Jared knows what I got going on. I'm working through a cold. It's that time of the year. Kids are back in school. They're bringing all kinds of nastiness home along with them. And it was only a matter of time before I caught something. I made it 2 months into the school season before I caught something from one of the kiddos. So I'm working through it. But look, that's what we do, Jared. We just, there's no time to sit and rest and be sick on the couch. We got a live show to do. It's fan-led Thursday, so we got to try to power through it.
All this wee shit is because I'm fine. So it's more like you, but
Matt Kirby suggesting I have foot and mouth disease. I was talking
horrifying disease. If you have ever had that, that's horrifying.
I have not. I have what is I've heard of it. I know that it goes around in schools. I don't know what it is.
You're done with the pod. It's interesting.
Is that like a common theme? Sounds serious.
Yeah, it's like sores on your mouth and stuff.
Oh my God.
Probably remind you of college, but it's not good.
Not me. Not me.
I know other people's experiences.
Good to see you, Scott, Jacob Morris, Don Williams, Seth Scott, and Larry McCall, who has a question here. Should we jump into questions? We can just do it. Yeah. And we've got a couple of things that we can talk about as well here. If the questions get slow, but Larry from the YouTube page, he asked the first question here, so he's going to get the first spot. Larry McCall from YouTube says, question for you, Chris. You take awesome photos and videos. Why does sometimes Michigan unis look yellow and sometimes they look rich gold and maize? Look, I think a lot of that has to do with not just the time of day, but the lighting in the stadium and then how you edit photos afterwards. And, some people like a certain type of look. I've looked at, photos and videos where it looks almost borderline like neon yellow, kind of like, did you remember how neon the Michigan uniforms got during like the Rich Rod and the Adidas era where they were really pushing that neon yellow, and I hated it.
Horrible.
And so they, once they made the switch back to Jordan, they've gotten a little more, close to that traditional maize color. So Larry, that's a really long answer to just say it's a lot of factors: time of day, type of camera, what you're doing for your after editing. And yeah, Tony Petrosky can speak to that. He's another photographer. For those of you who don't know, Tony Petrosky, who's in here quite a bit, he's another sideline photographer. He's a great dude. Anytime I get to talk to him, it's always pleasant. But, he also takes a lot of photos, does a lot of great work. You can find his stuff on social media. But Tony knows it's lighting and setting. And then, you're using some apps afterwards to do some editing to spice things up a little bit, make it a little more interesting.
I got nothing to add. I'm not a doctor of art.
Scott Patton says, put some whiskey and lemon in that tea.
Solid advice. That is solid advice.
Solid advice. Jacob Morris from the Facebook page. He says, do we think Michigan will get better after the bye week? We all know how the last bye week was. Jared, that's a good question. I'll let you lead off on that. And before we get into it, I'll just say, obviously the bye week is coming at a great time for Michigan. The injury bug has definitely hit this team, and they've been dealing with injuries throughout the season, and from some key players. So here's kind of where things stand right now. If you're curious about where Michigan is on the injury front, obviously you have Justice Haynes, who's going to get foot surgery. The diagnosis there is he's going to be out several weeks. They keep saying they're hopeful for a return this season, but I don't know, man. He was in a full boot. He was carting himself around. He's got to get surgery on his foot. It doesn't seem like a situation where you're going to see Justice Haynes back on the field this year. Rod Moore's another guy who we've seen in and out of the lineup. There's no specific timetable for his return. He's another guy that is just getting harder and harder to see. At this point, you've missed so much time and you missed all of last year, and you've got guys that are getting reps out there. It's just, is he a captain? Is he somebody that has value on this team? Yes. But is he at a point right now where he can be on the field and make a big impact? I don't know. I mean, when he stepped on the field, what was it, against Washington?
Yeah, instant impact.
So, but this has been going on for a while now. So every week I just kind of count Rod Moore out unless I see him on the field doing his thing. Jayshon Barham is another guy who went out with an upper body injury. He is expected to be back after the bye week. Evan Link, his injury is going to keep him out for the season. Jimmy Rolder getting closer to a return. Cole Sullivan getting closer to return. And Hogan Hansen is questionable when the Michigan Wolverines take the field in Chicago, by the way. Wrigley Field taking on Northwestern. That's going to be an awesome setting. But Jacob, to your question, so Michigan battling a lot of injuries coming out of the bye week. Jared, based on what you've seen from this team so far this year, you come out of the bye week, you go to Chicago, probably going to be chilly. You're playing a Northwestern team that's 5-3. Northwestern taking on USC this weekend, by the way. So that's going to be a game you're going to want to keep your eye on. Rooting for Northwestern in that one. How do you think Michigan comes out of this bye week?
Well, I think part of what you said nails it, right? I think the injuries, getting guys back. I mean, if you had to play this week and you weren't sure about Jayshon, Sullivan, Rolder, all those guys, I'd be pretty nervous. Hopefully that bye week gets those guys back. And then, I've seen a lot of fan pages, and I don't disagree. Reps, and reps with that offense, with the passing game. I don't even know if you're running, and I've never been a head coach, but if you're running the offense at Michigan right now during the next 2 weeks, do you even practice a running play? You've shown that you're pretty sufficient at doing that. I would pass the ball. They have to come out of that bye week better.
Wait a minute. Are you coming over to my side of this argument? Did we not? I feel like I'm
win without it, but I would like to see it not.
Is this, like I said last week, in? Is this hand, foot, and mouth disease or whatever the hell it is? Is that what I have here?
Whiskey in my tea. Yes, that's what you have.
You're advocating for Michigan to pass the ball more?
No, I want them to get better at it, obviously. And I said that last week. I just don't think that it matters right now against these teams, but obviously we want them to get better. If they come out not better, that's the other part of these.
That's the question.
If this guy they come out 4 for 15 and 78 yards, we're gonna have some rabid fans, win or lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously that's the biggest thing they need to work on. But here's the thing: it's not just Michigan; it's Michigan sports teams, Michigan football teams. The Lions came out and laid an egg last week coming out of a bye too. And I've been a fan
That's
of
because
both
of the greatness of JJ McCarthy.
Okay, well, JJ's all right, but the line they've done it. Both teams, and the fans are right here. Like the bye weeks, just you expect so much. You get 2 weeks to hone your craft, but yeah, what a great place to play football. And are you still going?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be heading down there, taking the family out. My wife and I, we met in Chicago. We got married out there. We lived out there for a while. My son was born there before we moved back to Michigan, and so it's just a place that we love to go spend some time. So anytime we have the opportunity to go back, we take advantage of it. But certainly with Michigan playing at Wrigley Field, could not pass up an opportunity to go shoot photos there. But yeah, in terms of Jacob, will they be better out of the bye week? Honestly, I don't think we're going to see anything different than what we've seen. I think I'm at a point right now where, we're going into game 10 of the season, and Michigan is who they are at this point. I think we're just going to see, there's a difference between what I hope to see and what I think we're going to see. I think their DNA just is what it is. And I think that Sherrone Moore, for better or worse, does not see a real need to sort of veer away from who they are and what they do. Now, fans like us can sit back here and say damn it, they need to pass the ball more. They need to develop that over the next 2 weeks. You got to get reps through the air, reps through the air. But I guess playing devil's advocate or advocating for the fans, I would think the biggest incentive to focus really on the passing game is twofold. Not only are you not very good at it or not very consistent with it, right? Your wide receivers need more reps. Bryce Underwood clearly needs more reps. But also, like, you're down. I know Michigan has a deep running back room, but you're down to Jordan Marshall here. You've got Justice Haynes who's going to be out for the season. You got to protect. I get Jordan Marshall is a bruiser. He's a run between the tackles type guy. But you don't want to lose Jordan Marshall against Northwestern. You don't want to lose Jordan Marshall against Maryland. You're going to need a 100% fully healthy Jordan Marshall when you take on Ohio State on November 29th. And so I think between wanting to make sure Jordan Marshall is good and wanting to make sure your passing game's up to where it needs to be, I think for those two reasons, Michigan should be slinging the rock quite a bit over the next 2 weeks because, you know, Jared, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about it, and I think we differ in our opinion in how Michigan will ultimately beat Ohio State. You think it's, you know, they've proven they can do it on the ground. They've done it before, and that's probably what we're going to see this year, and I don't disagree. But I do think I think this year Michigan is going to have to throw the ball more against Ohio State than they had to the previous 4 games. And I think that with where the passing game is right now, it's a concern if they get into that situation where they're down 10 or 14 points early. I've talked about this before. I just don't think Michigan is the type of offense that can come back from behind. I don't think you get behind 10 or 14 points against the Buckeyes. I don't think Michigan has it in them to come back. And so you got to play from ahead. If you can do that, sure, run the ball. But damn it, Jared, I would like to see some great plays through the air over the next 2 weeks against, let's be honest, 2 opponents where Michigan should be able to throw the ball.
Right, and I just want to point out the greatness of what you just did there, Chris, because I respect it. You took something that you've been hammering at me for weeks and spun it from you just want to see more sexy football to no, I just want them to pass because they need to protect Jordan Marshall.
I do want more sexy football.
You desperately are finding a way for them to air it out and become this air raid attack. And I respect it. I can't wait to see
No.
What are you going to say next Monday?
See, look, man.
I love it. Chip Lindsey's got to save his job because that's why you want them to throw it. It's because you love Chip Lindsey. It's not about
you say things like that. People are going to think that I'm out there saying things like that. Let's be clear here. Do I want sexy football? Yes. I'm at a point in my life where I want sexy football. Ground and pound just doesn't do it for me. Unless you're like, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. I want to see more through the air. I think that's why you go and get a quarterback like Bryce Underwood, right? That's why you make that kind of investment because you know you need to have something through the air. We talked about it on the last show. Everybody's in agreement that Michigan has to go out and get bigger and better wide receivers during the offseason. Well, one way to be able to do that is to prove that you can actually move the ball through the air and that you have a competent passing attack. So, look, there's a whole host of reasons why I think Michigan getting better at throwing the ball is going to be a good idea. One of them being like, yeah, it's a sexier brand of football. It's more exciting to watch. You can put more points on the board, presumably. And I think everybody would sign on for that. So it's going to make me feel bad for wanting sexy football.
No, I know. Yep. Sexy football. I'm going to make a shirt. Bring sexy.
I'm going to make a hat that says make football sexy again.
Yeah. There we go.
Hey, you know,
that's people will buy that.
Get that, run the damn ball, get that stuff out of my face. Make football sexy again. That's what I want. CJ Frazier from the Facebook page, he asks, how big of a part do you think Sharon Moore being suspended week 1 next season played into the decision not to play in Germany? Great question, CJ Frazier. Something that, obviously made some news. It's been a slow news week for the Michigan football program, but that was a big part. So maybe let's split this into 2 questions, Jared. Number 1, do you like the idea that Michigan decided to reverse course on playing overseas? And 2, how much of Sharon Moore being suspended for that week 1 game do you think played a role in that?
Well, I have to share a story first because as you the fans may or may not know, Chris and I wrote together for On SI, and one of the worst people to write about was Savion Hyder because the system
you're really going to do that.
You're really going to do that. They wanted to add an L into his name. And I saw a guy write an article about it, and it said, Savion Hyder will not star in Germany. And I thought, my God, he was probably so close to making one of the biggest mistakes of his life because it happened to me once. It auto-corrected within a story, and I remember a guy said, Savion Hitler, and he said, ... you had one job. And I still remember that. But anyways, I didn't care. It was so bad. It was so bad. No, I honestly, as a fan, I could give a shit. I didn't want them to play in Germany. It's just a recipe for a disaster. Like, why do it? I mean, the players, cool. They get to do that. Get to go to Germany. I just didn't see the value. And the opening game at the Big House is just always such a great experience. And you've been to 100 of them. I've been to 100 of them. It's great. It's a team that, they expect to win. So another thing is the tickets are a little bit more affordable for fans. So more people can go. People, who haven't gone. A lot of season ticket holders kind of sell their tickets a little bit more to. So I didn't give a shit one way or the other, to be honest. I don't even have a real hot take on this other than, my extreme gaffe on spelling Savion Heider's one name and then the connection with Germany, which is a nightmare.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm still mortified.
Let me try to get us back on track here, CJ. Listen, first things first, I hated the idea when I first heard it. I know that there's a lot of people that are like, well, the student athletes and they get to have this experience and it's so great for them and blah, 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 blah. Fine, that's great. But student athletes can also remember Jim Harbaugh did this. He took the team around the country, took them to Rome, and they got to practice and do the other things. Like, you can do that at any point in time during like the off season, whenever it's like, I guess, allowed within NCAA rules, but not during the season. No. I just listen, there are so many changes and things moving with college athletics and college football in this like growing popular trend of playing football overseas. I just think is a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake because there are people for like a week 1 game against Western Michigan where like as a family, that might be the only affordable game you can go to. Because when you look at some of these other games, man, like that's the other thing. It's not cheap to attend a Michigan football game unless you're prepared to spend like $150, $200 a pop. I mean, I'm going to be shooting the game at Northwestern at Wrigley, but my family's going to be up in the stands, and it is not a cheap game to go to. And so you got to start to make decisions. And I think anytime you take a game away from the Big House, it's like, you're messing with local businesses. You're messing with vendors that are there. You're messing with all the people that depend on all the people that come to Ann Arbor to see those games. And not to mention the fact that you get maybe 6 or 7 of those every single year. And, oh, by the way, 2 teams in the state of Michigan just packing it up and flying out to Germany to play a football game. Like, just logistically, it's like 2 teams from the same state playing in another country makes zero sense to me. No. So nothing about it made sense. I'm glad that they made the decision to bring it back home because it does belong at Michigan Stadium. But the other part of this question, CJ, is how much do we think Sherrone Moore being suspended week 1 played into that decision? I have zero knowledge as to how much that played into it, but if I had to guess, I would say 0. I don't think it really has to do with Sherrone Moore being available or not being available. I think it really comes down to some of the other things I mentioned where they probably got together, they thought about the impact on local businesses, they probably heard from some other people in the community, and I think the general consensus, sure, there was a pocket of people that were excited. If you're one of the few that are like, yeah, we'll fly over to Germany and go watch Michigan, or you happen to be a Michigan fan living in Germany where that's awesome. Great experience for you to be able to, like, how cool would that be? Like, you're over in Germany, you've been there for a while, you're a Michigan football fan. Now all of a sudden the Wolverines are coming. Like, yes, but those circumstances are few and far in between. I think the vast majority of people, both associated with the university and just fans of the program, wanted that game to be played in Ann Arbor. And kudos to Ward Manuel and the University of Michigan for making the right decision. But CJ, I don't think that had anything to do with Sherrone Moore's availability.
Well, and just to think a little bit further on that, I mean, I don't know how many, I'm sure quite a few people in this chat, our fans, our world travelers have gone overseas and crossed 4 or 5 time zones and then come back in the same week. That's exhausting. And who's week 2 for Michigan next year? Oklahoma. So you go out there, you manhandle a Western Michigan team that you could beat on the moon. You could beat them anywhere. You go all the way out there and then you come out and you lay an egg in Oklahoma. These same fans are going to destroy you and say, why did you take your team to Germany when you could have, you know what I mean? Why?
You know what would be an incredible power move in a game like that? Just send your second team unit. Keep all your first string guys back. Keep them healthy. Keep them working out. You know what I mean? Just send the second team guys. Just send the second team playing. We're going to be playing a ridiculous game against Western Michigan.
You did put whiskey in the tea.
Oh, boy.
You didn't have to do it. No, that would be dope, though. Just send the
Here's a question on the Facebook page from Tyler. He says, here's a question. What is the biggest positions to look into when it comes to the transfer portal? I think we hit it on that a little bit when we were talking about the passing attack. Jared, you want to take that first? What do you think Michigan needs to really focus on in the transfer portal?
It's the receivers, 100%, 100%. Like we talked last week, Julian Sand has thrown 230 passes. Bryce Underwood has thrown 201. So Michigan is throwing the ball. Again, I'm going to say it before somebody eviscerates me. I know Sand doesn't always play in the fourth quarter, but we throw the ball. It's just the guys that are catching it. I mean, Samaj is, the third string guy, and he's had all these drops. And yeah, you got to go get some receivers. I think that's the key. And I mean, obviously we'll know later, if guys leave and guys transfer out, guys go to the NFL, that'll dictate some other positions too. But right now, if you could pick some players off some other teams and fill spots on Michigan, you'd pick receivers all the way across the board. You'd pick receivers. I think if I had three transfer picks that I could take, I'd take 3 receivers right now.
Well, listen, I think that
2 good ones out of there, but I'd take 3 more.
Yep. Under normal circumstances, you're probably thinking like Michigan football, what's their brand? What's their identity? Well, maybe I get 1 wide receiver out of the portal or get a couple guys. But I think going back to what I said earlier, when you make the kind of investment you make in Bryce Underwood, you're not, you're not making that kind of investment just so he can hand the ball off and you can be, exclusively a one-dimensional team. And again, I'm not speculating, I'm not suggesting anything, but we all know what today's era of college football is. And when you bring Bryce Underwood here, for better or worse, part of the deal is you got to keep that kid happy, right? The 12 million or whatever it is, I'm sure is making him happy, but he also wants to produce. He also wants to put up numbers. He also wants to develop while he's here. And so you have to surround him with the type of weapons. And I also want to make a point to say that Bryce Underwood has not been perfect this year. So some of the things that we're seeing in the passing game, some of the struggles we're seeing are certainly coming from number 19, but we all know that he's going to get better and fix those things. But at the end of the day, like, you just can't have wide receivers out there who can't catch the ball. You can't have guys out there who aren't playmakers. Bryce Underwood is a guy who's a playmaker, but he's got to have playmakers at wide receiver around him. And so if you're Michigan, I think that's got to be top priority. Also, I think you're always going to be looking in the transfer portal for offensive linemen. I think you're always going to be looking for guys in the secondary, defensive linemen. We saw Michigan go out and get Damon Payne and Trey Williams come in, that can give them good reps. And so I think Michigan is pretty good for the most part in the transfer portal. A lot of the guys that they get seem to, do well when they get here. But to me, if you're asking what's the top priority, Jared and I are in lockstep. It's got to be wide receiver. You got to go out and get yourself some marquee wide receivers. I know Michigan has recruited. I know you've got Andrew Marsh coming back. Obviously, he's only a true freshman this year. But we've seen it, right? Like, you keep waiting for Samaj to break through and it doesn't really happen. And you think you're going to get something with Channing Goodwin because he works his way into the starting lineup to begin the year and then he falls off. And you think Marlon Klein is going to be this, incredible target because week 1 he did this and then he sort of falls off. And so that just goes to show that you need more options there. And Michigan right now is incredibly limited at wide receiver. You're not going to get Donovan McCulley back next year. So yeah, you got to hit the portal and you got to try to get some wide receivers. But that's also part of the conversation is like, Jared, let's say there are some elite wide receivers that enter the transfer portal during the offseason. If you're Sharon Moore and you don't really see any significant change this year, and there's no indication to suggest that you're going to see it, how do you sell it? Like, how do you sell a marquee wide receiver out of the portal why they should come to Michigan?
I mean, I think I said it last week. You sell the fact that we are trying to throw the ball. And I would literally roll up a reel of guys just dropping passes and say, you think you can catch that? Because if you can, come here and we're going to throw it to you. Because they are throwing the ball. I mean, he's thrown a couple hundred times. Like, that's not far off of what other teams are doing. I think I looked it up last week and they're right around 60-40 run pass. But it's because the passing game is not as effective. Plus, you played teams that, you could just run the ball down their throats to Michigan State, So I would tell those receivers, we got this kid. He's gonna throw the ball, but we just need somebody to catch it. And if you think that you can be that guy and you want to come score touchdowns in the big house, come on down. And I want to share that I sent my VHS tape into Sharon Moore because I have 4 years of eligibility left, and apparently they don't have a way to play VHS. So I tried to do my part. And whatever. So here I am in the basement just talking about it when I could be out there making a change. But it's sad. So
if I just made a few different decisions in my life, Jared, I'd be right out there with you. But yep. Such is the case. We are here on a podcast talking about the people that are doing it. But sure, like, look, you can go out and get big time wide receivers, even if you're not necessarily producing in the passing game for reasons Jared just said. Like, you can show that, hey, we've made investment in the quarterback. We're trying to do these things. We've attempted to do it, but we've got wide receivers that aren't making plays. So that says what? You can get immediate playing time. You're going to be a guy who's going to step in and be an impact player right when you get here. here, not to mention the facilities, not to mention getting a degree from the University of Michigan, playing in the big house, and NIL dollars, right? Money.
Yeah.
That's the big part of this. Is like, if you're Michigan, you got to dig into those pockets and do whatever you got to do. Like, I don't want another dude, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I don't want to get any sort of wide. I don't want to hear about some UTEP transfer wide receiver or UMass transfer wide. Like, I want, if a big time marquee wide receiver enters the transfer portal during the offseason, Michigan needs to be at the front of the line paying the biggest amount to get that guy to Ann Arbor. Jared, would you agree? Like, I don't want any of these like lower level, smaller school guys. Get me a marquee wide receiver to Ann Arbor. It's been too damn long since we've had it.
Yep. We want a plug and play guy, a guy that's going to come in and take big reps, a guy that's going to come in and could, nothing against McCulley, demand that number 1 jersey and say, here's why, because the last 2 years I did this. 100%. And you got a guy that can sling it. Like Bryce has got an arm, you know, he's going to get better. Like we've said it, he's inevitable. Inevitably, he's going to get better. And that sophomore leap is huge in college football generally. But with no targets, I mean, what are we going to do out there?
He's still going to be limited. Yeah, he's still going to be limited. So it's got to be top of the list. And Michigan has the resources to be able to do it.
100%.
Let's see here. Seth Scott from the YouTube page, not a question, but a comment. He says, I don't think Michigan gets in the playoffs if they win out. I haven't really thought. I mean, Jared, what do you think about that? I think we're all in agreement and we all feel like if Michigan wins out and they go 10-2, you beat Ohio State at the end of the year, you're in. But I do think some other things need to happen, right? Like you need USC to lose. I believe there's some games that are taking place here down the stretch where Michigan might need a little bit of help, even if they win out. But man, I have a hard time believing a 10-2 Michigan with a win over a team that's going to be ranked number 1 in the country is going to be kept out of the playoff. I think if Michigan wins out and they beat Ohio State at the end of the year, they're going to be in the college football playoff.
100%. Yeah, I don't see any situation where they're not. They're a brand too, right? Michigan's a brand.
And I was going to say that is a part of it. Like you cannot ignore this era of college football. If you've learned anything over the last, 3 or 4 years, revenue matters. TV revenue 100%. Matters. I'm still pissed off, by the way, about the whole YouTube bullshit. Like I don't have ESPN and any of that crap on the YouTube TV. They still haven't resolved their shit. You know, we do have the Disney Plus thing. We've got the YouTube TV. We've got like Amazon thing. Dude, we're paying for like 6 different streaming services. It's embarrassing. I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but the bottom line is that revenue is a big deal. And if Michigan's 10-2 and there is a chance you can get them in the college football playoff, they are putting the Wolverines in the playoff.
Yeah, 100%. Now, are they going to win the national championship? Absolutely. No. As a degenerate gambler, I wouldn't put $1 on it, but they will be there if they beat Ohio State, period. I mean, you got Michigan, you got the Bryce Underwood story. Like, what a dream scenario for that college football committee would be somehow Michigan and Ohio State bumps heads again in the playoff, right? Like that would be one of the bigger games of all time. So yeah, if they win out, they're gonna make it. And I did see a scenario, and I think you talked about it, and I don't know if it was on your Facebook page or not. There's still a scenario where Michigan could make it to the Big Ten championship, right? It's like a weird algorithm of points and stuff.
I think so.
I saw a fan, and he had an interesting take. He said, "What if we beat Ohio State, we make it into the Big Ten championship, knowing that maybe Indiana's just going to be waiting there to murder us, and we just don't play it? Because does a 10-2 team that beats Ohio State, and obviously we would play it, but a 10-2
Jared, this is more ridiculous than me suggesting Michigan send the B team out to Germany.
It's not, because it comes with a question. Now I ask you a question. Does a 10-2 team that beat Ohio State and somehow points differential keeps them out, they don't make it into the Big Ten championship, do they make the playoff? Whereas a 10-3 team that beats Ohio State and then loses to Indiana doesn't make the playoff. Because now you have that third loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think the third loss will keep you out. I think 10-2 is where you want to be, and I think that's where Michigan's going to be. I don't think they're going to.
You don't want to go in and lose the Big Ten championship. Obviously, if you win that, you're locked in at that point. And
that was proven last year with Oregon. Oregon won the Big Ten championship and then had to sit for a week or two before they played Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and then they got ran over. Mm-hmm. So that's not really incentive to go out and win a. And by the way, you got to play another game, right?
Didn't Bama lose the SEC championship, and that's why they had that third loss or something like that? There was a team last year that played in a championship, and one of their conference champions said, "Hey, if we hadn't played this stupid thing, we wouldn't have lost, and we would have been in the playoff. I can't remember what team it was. Somebody will correct me.
Somebody will correct you.
Yeah, we got Alabama last year. He says, "Yep."
Let's see here. Cody Richardson from the Facebook page says we need to spread the ball out more and stop playing the conservative approach.
It's not who Sean is, baby. It's just not.
Well, yeah, there's that, and I think that also, and I was guilty of this for a while during the season, just feeling like Michigan's playing too vanilla, Michigan's playing too conservative. But Jared, how much of it do you think is like just who Sharon Moore is and what his DNA is and what he wants the DNA of this football team to be versus like, hey, we've tried to do some things downfield. Guys aren't really they're not making plays. Things aren't going the way we want them to go. So we're leaning into our bread and butter. Like, how much of it is like, do you think it's conservative by design and conservative because really right now we just don't have much of a choice?
I think it's the latter. Because here's the thing, as much as you want sexy football, which again, I love it. I love the term. I hate the idea, but as much as you want sexy football, Sharon Moore would like to keep his job. You know what I mean? And he knows I got to go out and win games because we talked about it last week. If they had gone out and Bryce had thrown 330 yards and 4 touchdowns and they had lost to Washington, it's a loss. You know what I mean? Cool. It was sexy and you lost. So as a coach, he's going to do what his strengths are. Anybody that's a strategist goes to their strengths to win whatever you're doing, right? Like, I mean, the United States military doesn't do things where we don't have an advantage. We do everything to be in an advantage, you know, and you're going to war in between the lines and you're going to do what puts you at the advantage. And right now it's running the ball, controlling the clock. And yeah, unfortunately.
Well, and he also got to see that approach worked with Jim Harbaugh. I mean, he was the offensive coordinator when Michigan won a national championship playing with that type of approach. And so, you know, until there's like a big reason why they need to switch up what they're doing or what they're doing isn't working, we can complain about it all we want and think they need to do X, Y, and Z. But the reality is Michigan is 7-2, still have an opportunity to get in the college football playoffs, still have a chance to beat Ohio State and make a big statement here down the stretch. And so I think that, again, if you were to go into the preseason where we all were and sort of looking at this team and trying to figure out where would they be, you know, going into week 10, I think all of us would have been in agreement that 7-2 would have been, correct, you know, the most likely landing spot. And so Michigan isn't overperforming, I wouldn't say, but they're not underperforming. They're doing about what we expected them to do this year. But, you know, how this thing shakes out down the stretch and, you know, obviously beating or losing to Ohio State is going to really sway the minds of people in terms of how they look back at this season, right? You take care of business against Northwestern and Maryland, then you beat Ohio State, you get into the college football playoff. People are going to look at this season and unanimously view it as a success with acknowledging that, yes, they got to get better at some things, but there's no way you would look at a season like that and say it wasn't a success. Now, if you come out of the bye week against Northwestern on the road and you look like shit and you struggle against Maryland and, you know, you get blown out by Ohio State, now all of a sudden people are going to look at this season under a completely different light. And so it's real important how these next 3 games go for Sharon Moore and just the fan perception of the direction of this program. It doesn't really mean anything in terms of his job security, like how pissed off fans are, like really isn't going to matter. No. But we talked about that schedule next year where we're all sort of looking at like, hey, next year's got to be a big year. Next year is going to be a gauntlet for the Michigan Wolverines when you look at the schedule. We might get into that before we hop off here, but let's get to more some of the fan stuff here. Did we answer that question? We think it's not conservative by design, right? It's more so conservative just because of the things they're trying. I
think Cody was just making a statement too. Like that's what Cody would do if Cody was running the team. But I think Cody would get out there and try to throw the ball a bunch of times and then probably end up getting fired too, just like we would.
Or he'd make the same decision Sharon Moore's making, where it's like, look, we're trying to do it. It's not working.
Like
just give it to Justice Haynes. Give it to Jordan Marshall.
Cody's running it 100 times a game.
He's ground and pound. Ground and pound. Like
fellas.
It works. It's real. I will say this: it's real easy to fall back on that when you have Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall, because you know
it's hard not to. It's like Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl, right? Yeah. Everybody wanted to throw it, but you knew Bo Jackson was taking it to the house. Like, come on.
How about this? Matt Kirby says, special teams. We are losing like 100 yards a game in hidden yardage, punting blows, returner never runs up in fair catches. How do we get one blocked with our punt protectors just standing there? Atrocious altogether. More of a statement. Look, Matt, I think there are a lot of people within this fan base that agree with you that special teams has been an absolute disaster. And Jared, this is something that you've talked about. Like for Michigan for a while now, like there hasn't really been a desire to like be explosive in special teams. They've really just been playing it safe, right? Like you put a guy like Jake Thaw back just to field the punt. We just want a guy back there who can field the punt, but you're not utilizing special teams as like a way to like, we can flip the field. We can make a big time play here. So, Jared, this is like the issues we're seeing on special teams this year, not to mention, Dominic Zavada, who's been real quiet. I don't think did he attempt a field goal against Purdue? I can't remember. Did he attempt one against Purdue? Did he attempt one against Michigan?
It was 21-16. He didn't.
He's been quiet. And so special teams top to bottom has been just an absolute disaster. And Jared, to your point, like not only is Michigan just like not solid, right? Not even keel, but they're not even anywhere close being able to like make a play on special teams. The type of thing like what's the one video we see from Desmond Howard all the time? What's the one video we see with Charles Woodson all the time against Ohio State? What's occurring in those highlight videos?
Yep. I'm looking at my wall, looking at Peppers, Howard, Woodson, like right here. Yeah, right. Those guys made a difference in that arena. Like there's three
special teams plays.
Yeah, three facets, right? Offense, defense, and special team. And we're just saying we're gonna try to win with two. You're doing nothing. Like Matt Kirby, you nailed this. And I hope that they're watching this podcast and gleaning the knowledge from Chris and I and you, Matt. Hey, stop, man. Maybe Sharon's on here. and Ohio State, when it matters, you see somebody back there. You know what I mean? I think for that Ohio State game, and we've talked about it last week, they have got to do every single possible thing to gain those inches. It's a game of inches, and that it's going to matter. Now, next two games, I'm fine. You just put a guy back that can catch it and do whatever, because you don't want to give it up that, hey, you know what, we're going to throw, somebody. I don't even know who's the most explosive guy we got.
I was just going to ask you, who would it be? Because they put Andrew Marsh back there a handful of times.
It was early in the season. He made a mistake. I think he's proven now that he's a little bit more comfortable in the highlight, in the moment. It's not at the shoe. It's going to be at Michigan, so it's not going to be deafening around him when he's trying to field it. I would say in the shoe, maybe a little bit different, but I mean, now the kid, and everybody said it, right? We can't call Bryce a freshman, then we can't call Andrew Marsh a freshman. Now you're going to be, it's a final game of the year. And I think he's the most explosive guy. I can't think of anybody else that would really, I love Samaj when he can do the right things. He's got the talent, he's got the speed, he's got the ability, but I think something's just off with Samaj this year. I don't know if the confidence is just shook. I would not want to put Samaj back there and say, all right, you're the guy.
No,
or they run a trick play. You've seen those, a trick play on the kick return or the punt return where somebody comes, do something. Just do something. I think maybe it was Matt last week that pointed out the fair catch when there was like 30 yards in front of him. What are we doing? You or I would have tore a hamstring, but we could have took it 10 yards. Something.
Maybe. I got a little giddy up in my step. I got a little something left.
If you say giddy up in your step, you have nothing left. That's just that's in the Geneva Convention. That's a law.
That's a 40 and over term, I think.
Exactly.
Let's see here.
Yeah, Alex Orgy. Yeah.
Colin James Conkright from the Facebook page. He says, "Does Michigan need to turn Underwood loose on running with the ball?" I
don't think they haven't said no to it, right? He's been running the ball a little more.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, if you're asking, like, do they need to have more designed runs for Bryce Underwood? I would say no. I mean, at this point, it's like, most of the season is over. You've got Northwestern, you've got Maryland. Michigan is doing just fine with handing the ball off. I don't know that having Underwood run on a designed run is going to help. Now, on a pass plays, when he rolls out and he's on the move and he's trying to make things happen, he's shown a tendency to take off. And I think they've given him the freedom to do that. And you've even seen him start to slide and protect his body a little bit more, which I think is great. But no, I don't think he needs to be turned loose and have more designed runs. I think the biggest thing they need to do is the work that needs to occur is through the air, not on the ground when it comes to Bryce Underwood. It's that connection from point A to point B and feeling comfortable there. So in terms of like, should he run the ball? No, I think he just needs to be throwing the ball more to get those reps in, to Jared's point, because at the end of the year, like they're against Ohio State, I'm going to tell you right now, Bryce Underwood is going to need to make a couple of big plays through the air to keep this thing close. He's going to have to do it. There's going to come a point in time where Michigan's going to need it, whether it's third and distance, late in the game, whatever it is. You're going to have to look to number 19, and all that bullshit about, well, he's just a true freshman. All that goes out the window November 29th when the game's on the line and you need a play from number 19. And so I would rather see over the next 2 weeks they get comfortable with that point A to point B connection. I'm not really all that interested in how often he's running the ball. Jared, where do you stand on that? Like, do you think he needs to run the ball more, or do you think it's been adequate?
Next 2 games, absolutely not, because the nightmare scenario is he gets hurt, right? I would rather have him throw the ball away next. I mean, if he rolls out and there's a huge lane and he's comfortable sliding, but we've seen guys slide and your foot gets caught on the turf, and we don't know what the Wrigley Field turf is going to look like. That's the other part. That could be an absolute disaster. If I'm the coaching staff, I just throw it away or run straight out of bounds. I don't care what you're doing. Now, the Ohio State game, I have said all year, I think that he's going to have to run, and I think that's going to make an impact. Yeah. And I believe that because the Ohio State cornerbacks and Caleb Downs right now are probably laughing about going up against these Michigan receivers and this Michigan passing game. So they're going to be hungry to come up at him when he approaches that line. So I think that you'll see a play against the Ohio State game, and you can mark it now, where he runs the ball a few times, and the next time he rolls out, they're going to leave their assignment, and they're going to come to try to hit him, and he's going to put one over the top. And I think you saw that with JJ when he threw a couple to Cornelius Johnson a few years ago, because JJ was a little bit of a threat to run in big games. He would run a little more. Yeah. And once he starts coming towards that line, I think it was Adrian Martinez. It was from Muskegon, Michigan, like abandoned Cornelius, was like, oh, I'm going to go crush JJ, and got burned by like 30 yards. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that the Ohio State game, especially if you don't have Haynes, Bryce is going to have to, I mean, we're going to have to threaten this Ohio State defense with everything we got, right? You and I are going to be out there running. Everybody's going to be running. It's got to be, I keep throwing us on the team, dude. Like, we're going to be on this team. But, yeah, I think
Listen, I'll be down there on the field. If I need to make a play, Jared,
you will make a play.
I'll do it for the team. I'll do it for the squad. If I have to do something,
I think the Ohio State game, though, he will run, to Colin's point.
Yeah, well, in that game, sure. I mean, because at that point, it's like you're playing for a spot in the college football playoff. You know what I mean? There's nothing to hold back at that point. And so, yeah, I do think against Ohio State, for sure, his running ability is going to need to be part, because you're going to have to give them a lot of different things to think about, and certainly him being able to use his legs is going to be a part of that.
They are solid.
Let's go through some of this here. Dun, 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 dun. Jason Errol, I believe that's how it is from the Facebook page.
Errol, trust me, I know this one.
Oh, you know this one. Okay, Jason Arell from the Facebook page. He says, never abandon the thing you are good at, but always work on improving what you're weak at. Passing is weak, so emphasis needs to be on passing in practice, along with playing situational football. Yeah, Jason, you're not going to get any argument from me. I mean, I don't expect Michigan to go away from the passing attack or the rushing attack, because it's their bread and butter. It's what they do. But yeah, the passing is clearly a weak point on this team. They haven't developed a solid rhythm that carries over from week to week. There's not a lot of consistency there. And then when you add into the fact that Jordan Marshall is now your feature back, you're down Justice Haynes, you got to protect that guy. There are plenty of incentives for Michigan to just move the ball through the air. And I think it's like, I mean, Jared, do you feel confident on the road against Northwestern, who's 5-3? I know they got to go play USC on the road, and we'll see how that goes this weekend. But what if Michigan goes into that Northwestern game and leans heavily on the passing attack against Northwestern? I mean, are you even confident that would be a winning formula against the Wildcats on the road?
I don't think that's the game you want to do. I don't know. I mean, they call it the Windy City for a reason. I think it's going to be cold.
That was for a different reason.
It probably is. Damn it! Why do you have to call me out? We talked about not calling each other out on the podcast.
It might be wrong.
I thought it was later.
No, you're not. But a lot of people think that it has to do with like the actual wind. I thought it was for a different.
I'm saying it's because of the wind, and that's why the ball's not good in the air. And you just leave me alone.
Fair enough.
No, I mean, I think they're gonna throw the ball. I mean, I hope. We thought they were gonna do that against Purdue, and then they didn't. So I can't really predict what this offense is gonna do. I think if it's crappy weather, they're just going to go back to running, because the worst thing you could do is lose one of those games, right? Like try to get fancy and you lose the game, and now Ohio State doesn't matter, and you got to get the team up, and it's just not I don't know. But I like what Jason said. Jason's a very motivational guy for the fans. I served with Jason. He's a 20-year military veteran. Was my first sergeant, and I would go yell at people, and then he would come back and say, "All right, guys, let's just be motivational." And he was always that good dude. So that sounds very much like a realism.
I love it. CJ is going to get 2 up on the board here. A second question, but listen, they're coming in order here. I'm not really skipping any questions, and I think that this is a solid one that could lead to a good talking point here. He says the playoff committee admitted that they are factoring in the eye test. Do you think that might motivate Sherrone Moore to open it up? Nothing else seems to do it. Maybe this will. Jared, how much of that do you think comes into play that? It's not just about how it's, whether or not you're winning, but how you're winning and how you look to the committee. Do you think that that's going to incentivize Sherrone Moore and this Michigan team? You are now 3 wins away, presumably, from being in the college football playoff at this point, to maybe open some things up and show that you're capable of competing in the college football playoff.
I don't think so in a 12 team playoff. I just don't think it's going to matter. You know what I mean? You just win. You need to win to get in. Like Michigan, I think the teams that are jockeying for the 1 seeds, the Ohio States or whatever, the Indianas, Texas A&M, they want to win big so they can try to leapfrog each other. But for Michigan, you just got to win and get in. I mean, I'm convinced if they win the next 3 games, they are in the college football playoff. They will be one of the 12 teams in the playoff, regardless if they win by 20 or if they win by 5. I think the brand matters at that point, because to CJ's point, the eye test of, does Michigan look good? That might matter, but is it Michigan also matters? You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that kind of evens it out. And no, if you've ever met Sherrone Moore, and we both have, and I'm sure some of the, he's not a guy that's going to listen to 2 idiots on a podcast or anybody and change his persona. He's going to be who he is. And he's going to do what it takes to win the game. And I think he gets that from his mentor, who was Jim Harbaugh, right? Like Harbaugh could give 2 shits what we think. Go out, win the game. That's it. So no, I don't think he's changing his game plan.
I'm in agreement with it.
You lose the game.
I don't think Sherrone Moore cares at all what the playoff committee thinks they're looking at in terms of how Michigan plays football or how they win football games. And I think to Jared's point, like the big benefit you have at Michigan is it is a massive brand name. And so if you're 10-2 and you got to win over the number 1 team in the country under your belt, you're getting in the college football playoff. There's no way they're going to keep you out. So no, I don't really think that plays a factor. Let's see here. A lot of people advocating for more passings. Seth Scott from the YouTube page says they 100% need to air the ball out more, needs to be passed correctly and caught. Jordan Marshall beating the hell out of himself. Look, that's what we are sort of talking about here, is with 3 games to go, 2 games before you get to Ohio State. You're not passing the ball well. You're down Justice Haynes. Jordan Marshall is a bruiser. He's a wrecking ball. He likes to play physical. Sometimes it looks like he even seeks out contact when he could juke and sort of get in the open field. He's like, nah, I'm going to lower the shoulder and I'm going to hurt somebody. And that's all fine and good. But if he goes down, it becomes a real big problem for a Michigan team that leans heavily on the run, and you're down 2 guys. I mean, Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall, these are 2 guys that would likely start on
individually. Yep.
Individually, they could go to any team in the Big Ten. And if they're not the starter, they're like in the rotation for sure. They're getting considerable reps. I mean, I don't know. Are there?
I'll go as far as to say this. Either one of them is the starter at Ohio State, which is the best team in the country.
Yeah,
I watched Ohio State last week, start to finish. Had other reasons, but I wanted to see what they were about too. They ran 3 running backs.
Say it, Jared. You're a gambler. You've got an issue. You've got a problem. Jared, anybody who's watched this show now for the last, I don't know.
No, they just assume that you're making shit up about me. I'm not a gambler every day.
I've got text messages from Jared encouraging me to join gambling apps and saying, "Hey man, you can't. This is a can't miss. This is guaranteed. This is guaranteed $100. This is guaranteed."
Did you win?
Guaranteed that. No, because I'm not giving them all my financial information. I'm not signing up for this. That is a slippery slope. And I've watched how it's destroyed you, Jared. And I'm just not going to do it to myself. I'm not going to do it to my family.
I don't even know what to say about that. Anyways, hold on. FanDuel just texted me. No, I watched the Ohio State game, and they were running 3 running backs. That freshman Bo Jackson Jr. looked really good. He had 77 yards, looked solid. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, either one of those guys would start and would be heavily involved. And again, Ohio State went back to throwing it because they couldn't run. But I agree with you. Yeah, we have it's amazing. Two very talented running backs, and hopefully we can keep one of them into the last game. So yeah,
gonna have to. Maya Johnson says, never heard the term sexy football so much in my life. Get used to it, because that is my new philosophy. That's my new mentality when it comes to football. I want sexy football. Okay. Yep. I appreciate, much like in life and other aspects, I appreciate the ground and pound.
Careful.
But I want.
Careful. Think this through now. Come on, there's kids on the show.
Let me spend more time thinking that through before I finish that thought on a live.
Yeah. Write it down and read it.
Yeah. I want something that I'm watching to move me. I want to be excited. I want to be like standing up and cheering about what I'm seeing, not sitting on my couch.
Are you still talking about football, or are you talking about watching something else at this point? I'm starting to think you're going down the wrong path, my friend.
I don't know. Actually, I kind of blacked out. I forgot.
Insert Chantel. Yep, here comes Chantel now with the comments.
I was just trying to find my way through that and was not.
Yeah, let's find another question. Good one, Amaya. Appreciate you.
Tyrone from the Facebook page, he says, what do you mean it's Michigan ground and pound is the DNA? Yeah, I'm not sure. This might be because this is from 6:13. I mean, we're 6:51, so this might be a while ago.
You made the comment that because you keep saying ground and pound, and again, we don't want to get in that, but you made the comment that that's the DNA of Michigan football is ground and pound, and I think that's what everyone was saying about that. But yeah, it is. I mean, have you not watched the team for the last 140 years?
What they are, man.
3 yards in the cloud of dust came from. I mean, that's a Michigan thing, right? Big Ten adopted it, and that's who we are.
That is it. Trying to get through some. I'm trying to find some questions. There's a lot of comments in here. Once again, a lot of great interaction.
Yes, Matt Kirby, I'm taking the Broncos tonight if I were to gamble.
But you don't gamble.
That's way ahead of time.
Robert Green from the Facebook page, he says, how is it that Michigan always has these growing pains and Ohio State doesn't? I mean, I think that's a fair question. And I could give you an answer. I don't think that Michigan fans are going to be happy with the answer, but the reality, at least on my side, Jared, is I think Ohio State, in terms of where they are as a football program, when you look at their success from year to year consistently, they are a tier 1 football program, and they have been for a very long time. I think Michigan is fully capable of getting there. And obviously we saw the Wolverines win a national championship in 2023, which is tier 1 behavior, right? Yeah. 3 straight appearances in the college football playoff, 3 consecutive Big Ten championships, 4 consecutive wins over Ohio State. This is tier 1 behavior.
Yep.
But when you add in 8-5 and 7-2, and sort of like these things where like you can't really pass the football, you're struggling in certain areas. Yeah, that, those are typically problems that you don't see happening in Ohio State. I think they recruit really well at that position. Obviously, they're pulling in elite wide receiver talent year after year, but that's because they've built a long track record on being able to produce NFL wide receivers and putting up a lot of numbers through the air. There's a reason why Michigan's able to bring in a guy like Savion Hyder and Jordan Marshall out of the state of Ohio. Jordan Marshall was Mr. Ohio. Right. And he chose to come to Ann Arbor. There's a reason why Justice Haynes left Alabama and came to Ann Arbor. There's a reason why Blake Corum came out of the DMV and said, I want to go play football in Ann Arbor. And so Michigan is recruiting well at the positions that it does well with. But I think this comes back to that conversation, Robert, which is, does Michigan need to put more of an emphasis on the passing attack to really reel in guys like the rare ones, like a Carnell Tate or a Jeremiah Smith or some of these elite wide receivers that you see coming through Columbus? I don't say, we don't have to get them year in and year out, but damn, Jared, it would be nice to pull in one of those guys every other year, right? See a guy like that come through the program.
I don't disagree. And I think that if you were going to look at this, if you would really break it down, it's what I've always said, recruiting matters, right? The last time that Ohio State struggled, I think they were 6-6. It was in the Denard Robinson era. Luke Fickell was the coach for 1 year. That was a transition. Who was the coach there before? Wasn't
Tressel?
Tressel, yep. It was so when Tressel left, they had a really down recruiting year, and it was just a bad situation. That's the only year they had a struggle. They didn't recruit well that final year when he was going out. And so Michigan now with Sharon has a number. They were number 6 last year. They're number 9 right now with some really elite talent coming in. I think this year's recruiting class is a little bit different to me because it seems like it's more spread out, where in past years you would get teams get 5, 6 5-stars. It seems like 2 and 3 is kind of the thing. Michigan's got 2. Ohio State's got a couple. But yeah, I think recruiting matters. Ohio State has done that consistently better than we have at a higher level, right? And to your point, I think you nailed it. Exactly what I was going to say, which means it's genius. Is Ohio State gets the guys that fit their program, right? If you're a wide receiver right now, maybe last year you weren't coming to Michigan. Like, they had no chance in hell of getting Jeremiah Smith. They had no chance of pulling Chris Henry, who's going to Ohio State next year. But as a running back, where else would you want to go? He looks really good. But as a running back, where else would you want to go?
Right.
I mean,
right. And that's how I feel. If you're an elite running back, if you're an elite offensive lineman, even if you're like, big time tight end, like you're a defensive lineman, you're an edge rusher, which, by the way, shout out to Derek Moore, who's now moved into the top 10 all time sack leaders at the University of Michigan with 19 and a half career sacks. I knew that he was doing well. He's got 3 consecutive games now of 2 or more sacks, which is, I don't know how often that's happened in program history, but he is really starting to come on. He's a guy that, preseason we thought was going to be one of the best in the Big Ten. It was a little bit slow to get going, but he's really come on here down the stretch. And edge rushers, defensive linemen, running backs, offensive linemen, tight end, like those positions Michigan has and will continue to recruit really, really well. But I go back to what I said earlier in the show. Like, there's a reason why you make an investment into a Bryce Underwood quarterback. Like, if you're, think about it this way, if you're going to stay the course with Michigan and you're going to continue this, we're just going to be ground and pound. We're going to lean on the rushing attack. We're going to do a little bit through the air, but we're going to, by and large, we're just going to be a running team. Like, why go out and make the investment into Bryce Underwood? Like, you don't need a Bryce Underwood at quarterback to run that kind of offense. And I'm going to be careful when I say this, but you can run that type of offense with a Cade McNamara type quarterback. You can run that offense with Davis Warren at quarterback, right? You can do that. Maybe that's a little more extreme because Michigan could not pass the ball last year.
I think Sharon has a vision. I think he has a vision, right? I think he has a 3-year plan. And it's to transform it and get. You also don't bring in a guy like Chip Lindsey as your offensive coordinator if you're just going to ground and pound. Look what he did at UNC with Drake May. Like, you know what I mean? I think that Sharon wants more balance. And I'll tell you right now, again, to everybody that's listening, Ohio State's not a balanced team right now. No. They're not. And that's never a good thing when you're not balanced. Like last year, they were balanced, right? They had Travion Henderson. I mean, they still had the receivers. They were very balanced as a team. This year, they're not balanced. Like watching them last week, when it got to a tough spot, they had to throw the ball. They could not run the ball. And so you look at Michigan, what do they do to Ohio State when they get in that situation? What have they done for 4 consecutive years? They've said, you're in a passing situation, we're coming for you. And they've done it for 4 years. Now you got Derek Moore. He's on fire. Jayshon Barham is going to come back healthy. He's going to have even more experience. I mean, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm still a little bit cringy about the fact that you can't control the clock because they can't run the ball. They could not run the ball.
Yeah, so, we've talked about it before. Everything in this rivalry game coming up on November 29th, it's all trending the same way that it's been trending the last 4 seasons, where Michigan comes in with a solid rushing attack. Ohio State comes in with an aerial assault that's one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. And when, at least over the last 4 years, those 2 brands of football have come together, Michigan has come out on top. And so everything is sort of lining up that way again. I don't know what it is, if it's instinctual or if it's PTSD or what it is, but there's something in the back of my mind that thinks like you're just playing with fire going into it, being one-dimensional as an offense against a team like Ohio State. Because even though Ohio State has limitations offensively, we know that they can score points in a hurry. They can score points quickly. And Michigan's defense, for as good as it is, does have a tendency to give up big plays and be out of position and kind of play out of character. And so that's what concerns me, going back to what I said earlier, is that in the event that happens, if you're Michigan, it's going to get real bleak real quick because you are not an offense that's designed to come back from 10 or 14 down. It's going to be real difficult when you're in a situation where you got to throw the ball and move it and get chunk plays and put up points quick. and you've got the type of offense you have right now at the University of Michigan.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. November 29th, Michigan, snowing, cold, windy. Which team would you rather have? The team that's heavy on the pass or that's heavy on the run? Where your strength is passing or your strength is running?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that because I don't want to say how I feel.
That's unconstitutional to plead the fifth. You have to pick one. It's literally constitutional. But
oh, wait. Are you asking me which style of play I would want or which offense I would take?
Which one would you want? Which style? So, I mean, I'm not saying pick Ohio State or Michigan. I'm just saying what style.
Listen, if it's
run game.
If it's windy and it's cold and it's, it's all that, which it's going to be November 29th, like obviously you want to be solid in the run game, right?
CJ Stroud is a great NFL quarterback, a great quarterback. He struggled every time that the weather was bad. And
that's because he had a tummy ache. He had a little tummy ache.
True, too. He had a little
team didn't feel good. They were all throwing up. Not to make excuses, but they didn't feel good. And the signs. Thank you, Connor Stallions. I mean, there's a lot working in Michigan's favor.
Great, dude.
A lot working in Michigan's favor. I am looking for
slide in a comment. How about that basketball team? Just gonna slide it in there.
They look really good. And listen, I know that Michigan is playing basketball right now. Mentally, I just can't get there. I'm just one sport at a time kind of guy. But yeah, I did turn it on against Oakland and they looked elite. I mean, they look every bit the part of a national championship team. It's going to be fun to watch how this thing plays out this year. But we're stuck on football.
I just had to give him a shout out there. Dusty May, baby.
Yeah. And he's done an incredible job.
College basketball.
Don't get me started on Curt Cignetti. No, I can talk about Curt Cignetti for hours. You don't want to get me going. Maryland is a trap game.
We've all said that.
Jared wholeheartedly agrees with you. Jared is terrified of that Maryland game right before Ohio State. He has said it a number of times. He thinks Terrapins are going to take it to the Wolverines. I'm not so sure about that.
Literally none of those words have ever come out of my mouth.
You spent an entire podcast talking about how nervous you were about the Maryland football game.
No, I don't.
It's true. There is video evidence of that. I can only assume that Tony Petrosky is talking about your gambling problem. 1-800-SEEK-HELP. LOL.
Is that another gambling line? Or I see what he's saying. Never mind. Never mind. I got enough apps.
Let's see. Somebody's saying 6'7" in the comments. Dude, are your kids doing this bullshit, by the way?
Yeah.
This stuff is driving me. It's driving me insane.
You know what? Now you know what I notice now? As the kids just screaming under the stairs now. They're up here listening. I see it everywhere now. I was pulling into a parking garage today and it said height limit 6'7". I thought, son of a it's everywhere. I'm starting to think
wait, was that intentional or was it just like
the 6'7" was the height of the parking garage?
Yeah, no. So I've noticed because this stupid phenomenon is happening, how often I use the number 6 and 7. Like when I was like, oh, it's buried 6 or 7 feet deep, or we got it, from 6 to 7. It's going to be anytime I say it, there's always something coming behind with some, this whole, I can't do it. I can't.
Move on. I don't want to talk.
We've got a rule in the house where if I hear it, I take something away. So it's like, if you say it, it's like, okay, what do you want to lose tonight? Is it your phone? Is it your TV? What do you want to lose? I'm trying to do everything I can as a parent, Jared, to bring an end to it. But it seems like a losing battle for sure.
No, I'm not gonna win that one. But.
Oh, brain rot. Tony Petrosky coming out like, I don't know if you're a time traveler or what it is. Says 39 degrees right now forecasted for the Ohio game. This is a month. We're talking about a month away.
Screenshot that. That's amazing. And I hope that's not the weather.
I hope that's not the weather too. I need whatever app you're using though.
I want 9 degrees and a blizzard. Sorry, Tony and Chris standing on the sideline. That's what I want.
Nope, I need it to be warm. Let's do this before we get out of here. I'm not seeing a lot of questions. I am seeing a lot of comments here. CJ says, stop saying it. I have an 11. Yeah, 6'7". What's the other shit? No, I'm not going to go down the road. There's a lot of it, Jared. There is a lot of it. It's a struggle to keep up with. Matt Kirby says he's getting it from the Farmer's Almanac. Okay, I'm not really,
There was a question, and I got accused of nepotism earlier, but there was a question that my daughter asked that I like to ask, and
where is it?
I've seen it's.
Or do you have it?
No, I can. I'll just ask it. She said, if you could pick a player to put on this year's team, a former Wolverine, one player, who would you pick, and that you think would bring the team over the top? Those are legit. I mean, I think we got to go receiver, right? So,
yeah, is it too cliche to say I'd bring back Braylon? You give Bryce Underwood a target like Braylon Edwards, something like that. I mean, I would think it would have to be at the wide receiver position. My instinct initially went to Jabril Peppers because I said hump there.
Yep,
you get help on special teams. You get help offensively. You get help defensively. Plug and play guy that can do a lot of different things on the team.
So you wouldn't take Woodson over Peppers?
No.
We're talking prime Woodson?
No, because here's the thing about that. I might get roasted for this, but I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't know what primetime Charles Woodson back in the late 90s looks like in this era of college football. I think he would be good, but I don't know how that translates. Different eras. It's like saying, right. I'm not doubting that, but was Charles Woodson that quick? Did he have that kind of shiftiness? I don't know how that translates. It's like saying I want to bring the A train back, Anthony Thomas. Like, I don't know. Is he going to be significantly better than Jordan Marshall or Justice Haynes? I don't know. I would probably go Jabril Peppers.
Really? I wonder what I'm going to look. I have to look it up. I'm not being I wonder what Woodson ran at the combine. What do you think his 40 was?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not really sure what his top end speed was. I mean, it was good enough to beat Ohio State. I know that. Mario Manningham, there's a good option.
4.4, my friend.
Okay.
Speed translates. I think, yeah, that would solve our problem with the punt. Dude, Charles Woodson back there returning punts against Ohio State in the snow or the 39-degree tropical weather that Tony's predicting because of.
Yeah, but you're not really getting much help offensively.
So that team, he didn't need it. He didn't need to do that, right? But this team, you would definitely need him to do that.
So you're bringing Woodson back as a special teams. Is he playing defense? He's playing
everything: special teams, defense, and offense. Right? They ran some slants and stuff for Woodson, some end arounds. I mean, he wasn't as heavily offensive, but dude, Woodson and Jeremiah Smith matched up in that Ohio State. Come on, baby. Come on.
A lot of people agreeing with you. A lot of people advocating for Charles Woodson to be the guy to come back. So I guess I'm in the minority there. Yeah, I probably go Jabril Peppers. I've seen that name once. I haven't seen it either. Not getting a lot of love for Jabril Peppers. That's fine. Let's see here. There was a question I saw pop up here. Michael Hall from the Facebook page. He says, what's a bigger problem on offense? Is it play calling or play execution? I think this is something that we've talked about, Jared, you and I, a number of times. To me, it's execution. Yep. I was in the camp where maybe for like the first 5 weeks of the season, I thought it was play calling. But then when you look at some of the film breakdown and you look at some of the things that are happening in Bryce Underwood decision-making with RPO and some of the reads that he's not making where guys are open, then he ends up getting sacked. And what starts to look like a vanilla game plan is actually like this offense just not executing what Chip Lindsey is trying to do. And so I do think that the staff was taking some heat for vanilla play calling when really it was a lack of execution. Now, if you want to put that on the staff, absolutely, because they're tasked with getting these guys ready. I understand it's a young roster. Bryce Underwood's a young quarterback. You're going to get some of that. But Jared, my standpoint is for sure it's play execution. You got guys dropping the ball. You've just got there's plays to be made, right? They're calling plays for plays to be made, and those plays just aren't being made, at least through the year.
100% agree with you. I mean, there's fourth down passes that Bellamy dropped, or Bellamy. Well, Bellamy's not out there. We should put him out there. That Samaj dropped that. I mean, could have changed trajectories of entire games, I mean, down in punts in the 3-yard line, things like that. Like, no, I think, yeah, the execution. But what you have a young team. I saw a stat and I wanted to share this today. And I don't know if you've probably said something about it already earlier on your Facebook, but when they ran that flea flicker the last game, 8 of the 11 players on the field were freshmen. Like, mistakes are going to happen. Like, that to me, that's kind of impressive. One, it makes me excited for the future too. These guys are getting serious reps, real game time reps, and then 2-3 years from now, when we're still hopefully doing this podcast, I think that's going to matter. And I think that 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to talk about, why this offensive line is so good and so gelled. Well, they've been playing together since they were freshmen. Marsh has been out there. Marsh is going to have so many reps under his belt. It's going to be incredible. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty impressive stat. It's scary because you don't want 8 of your 11 offensive players to be freshmen. But at the same time, kind of cool.
Yeah, and overall, again, it's a 7-2 football team, and maybe this is where we're going to end it on is, it's a 7-2 football team. There's been a lot of conversation on this on social media, Jared. This is where we'll close it out. Michigan at 7-2 with a loss to Oklahoma week 2 and a loss to USC in the conference. There's been some discussion about what is the value of scheduling these difficult non-conference games. And you think about where this Michigan football team would be in terms of the college football playoff race had they not had Oklahoma week 2. You got Texas week 2 last year. Jared, what is it that you want to say about that? Where do you stand on, in this era of college football with an expanded playoff system, still scheduling these big out of conference games?
I don't get it. I mean, the Big Ten is especially now the Big Ten's expanded and strong. I mean, you got Oregon, Penn State, a resurgent Indiana team. Ohio State's always there. You got a rival in Michigan State that could be tricky at any time just because they're a rival. I don't see the value, and that was the Nick Saban model. Really, they roasted him for years. Oh, Chattanooga State. Okay, well, he's got 7 rings, so I don't think the Bama fans gave 2 shits that he was playing a community college for 4 weeks before playing a tough SEC schedule, right? He knew he was going to play tough games. Michigan has to know you're going to get tough games in the Big Ten now. It's, NIL has changed everything. The conferences nationwide, you can recruit anywhere now. Oregon is spending ungodly amounts of money trying to get a championship. So no, I think you take that Oklahoma game away, you put, Western Michigan and there's some other team in there and you win that game and you're 8-1 now. And I think all the fans are in a different mood right now. I think Michigan's probably a top 10 team in the college football playoff right now, even with that bad loss to USC. I mean, I wanted to ask you that question and you stole it from me because we talked about it pregame, which is kind of shady, my friend. But so I pose it back to you. I mean, what do you think moving forward? Do you think there's any value in playing a tough non-conference team when you're going to play these other teams? And before, I think too, you might want to play one of these teams because it was so competitive with 4 teams. You had to have a signature win. You had to have, and they look at the conference. But now with 12 teams making it in, it doesn't matter. I don't think there's no value. I don't think. So what do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. In this era of college football, there is zero value outside of like the fan appeal. Like, oh, cool, we get to see Michigan, Oklahoma week 2 prime time. Like, yeah, it's cool for the fans if you come out on the winning side of it. But the risk to your season just isn't worth it because at the end of the day, with a 12-team playoff field, like you don't need that signature win if you're Michigan in the Big Ten. You're going to get tested. You've got USC, you've got Oregon, you've got Ohio State, you've got Penn State in there. You've got plenty of competitive teams within the conference. Now, I know I threw Penn State in there. This year's kind of an outlier, but generally speaking, you've got these big programs now in the conference where that out of conference game doesn't really matter as much as it once did unless you lose it, right? And so I think the risk to scheduling it just isn't worth it. And Jared, you and I talked about this before we went live. When you look at the schedule next season, Michigan has Oklahoma week 2. Michigan goes on the road and plays Oregon. Michigan goes on the road and plays Ohio State. Michigan has to play Indiana. Michigan goes on the road to play Minnesota and plays Penn State, I believe, at home, right?
And Iowa.
So loaded. When you look at Michigan's schedule next year with Indiana, Oregon, at Ohio State, you've got some big time matchups there. Then you throw in Oklahoma week 2. It's a gauntlet for the Wolverines. And we have talked about this a lot that we don't know how this season's going to play out, but everybody's looking at next year as the year that this team makes a giant leap. I want to pull it up because I have it here in front of me. Everybody's looking at next year as the year that this team takes a leap. But again, Oklahoma, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan State, Penn State, UCLA, at Minnesota, at Oregon, at Ohio State, at Rutgers, which isn't a big deal. But dude, there's some big time games in there. And if you're Sharon Moore and sort of what's lining up to be a prove it year at Oregon, at Ohio State, Oklahoma, Penn State, Iowa, that's a little bit risky. Take Oklahoma out of the equation, and that's still a gauntlet of a schedule. But when you add in a team like that early in the season, I just don't know what the benefit is. And I think in the expanded college football playoff and with the way that everything is now, like, yeah, back in the BCS for sure. And when you had a 4-team playoff and it was like, well, how strong is your resume? Having that Oklahoma win on the schedule could be the difference maker between being in and out, but not these days. If you're Michigan and you're 11-1, hell, even if you're 10-2, you're more likely than not in the college football playoff. And I think that that's something that teams are going to have to try to figure out moving forward is it worth scheduling a tough out of conference opponent early? I don't think it is.
Nope. I agree.
Tony, listen, have you not learned anything here? Have you not learned anything, Tony? Iowa is always scary.
Never know.
You never know what you're going to get from Iowa. You always expect shitty football, but you're never quite sure what you're going to get from the Iowa.
You don't want Iowa to be your 6th strongest opponent. Yet, that's what I think you're saying. Like, they're the 6th strong. Like, what? you want, you know what I mean? You want Iowa to be like your 2nd or 3rd strongest opponent, maybe Oregon, Ohio State, Iowa. You don't want to throw, Indiana, Oklahoma ahead of, like, good
Oregon,
Lord.
Ohio State.
Yeah, and that's your weakest opponent. Good Lord, that's a tough year.
Right. And I know that Penn State's become like sort of a joke this year, but before we went live, we talked about it. That's the beauty of the transfer portal and NIL and what you can do now in a single year. And Indiana has proven it, that you don't need 2 or 3 years to rebuild, and you don't got to start from scratch. In one offseason, you can transform a program from being down 1 year into a legit national championship contender, particularly if you are a power program like Penn State. So I know that they still haven't figured out the head coaching situation or whatever is going on there in Happy Valley. But once they get it figured out, I'll say this, they have the means to be able to get that team right back into playoff contention next season. The same could be said for an Iowa football program. Like, we're never quite sure what it's going to be and what's going to happen in the transfer portal. I can say this for sure, Jared. I never expected to be sitting here in 2025 and looking at the Indiana Hoosiers as the number 2 team in the country. And not just the fact that they're number 2, but that they're a legit number 2. They are a legit national championship contender. The fact that we're even saying that about Indiana just goes to show how dynamic everything is now and how quickly everything can change. And so when you look at that schedule for Michigan next year, and then you add Oklahoma on top of it, week 2, I just don't see what the point is. I don't see what the value is.
Nope. Don't like it.
Hold on here. We're getting some notifications here. Go Blue. The podcast is buffering. Did we lose a connection? Strong way to end the show. Maybe you know what? Maybe that is a sign that it's time to cut the show, Jared. I think we talked about all of it. We certainly had some good interaction here on a fan-led Thursday. What's that? Yeah, we certainly appreciate everybody coming in, dropping in, and having conversation on what's quite honestly a slow news week for the Michigan Wolverines. And so they're going to be off this weekend. Spend some time with your family. Go out, enjoy the last moments of fall, right before the shitty weather really kicks in. This might be your last weekend to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then you get the Wolverines back in Chicago. I'll be there in Chicago. Jared, are you going to Chicago or no?
Yeah, I think we buffered pretty good there.
Are you there? Are you still there?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we buffered out a little bit. I think they're kicking us off.
You're not going to Chicago, right? You're going to be in Puerto Rico.
I'm going to Puerto Rico next week, yes.
You're going to Puerto Rico next week. So Jared and I, look, there's a chance. I don't know. There's a chance we might go live next week. And Jared, I don't know. You're going to have some palm trees behind you. You might be in one of those mankinis. I don't know what it's going to look like.
No.
A little concerning. We'll see. But we will.
Tune in to find out.
We'll be back next week on Monday to talk about, I don't know. We'll find something to talk about as Michigan gears up for Northwestern and what will be, a big game for the Wolverines on the road coming out of a bye week. We'll see if they can get some things figured out through the air. Chances are they're going to lean on the rushing attack, but it'll be another week before we see it. Until then, really appreciate you guys for hopping in here for the Fan-Led Thursday. We will see you back here on Monday.